the iPhone 15 Pro Max versus the Samsung S24 Ultra. Which one of these is the best flagship of 2024? Let's talk about it. So, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is my main phone since September. But now, in January of 2024, I bought the Samsung S24 Ultra to review. And 1 week of using the Samsung S24 Ultra, I decided to make a comparison video. Yes, this is going to be a full comparison video between the iPhone 15 Pro Max, Apple's flagship, against the Android banner, the Samsung S24 Ultra, the considered best Android phone on the market, and actually the most recent one. So, yeah, which one of these phones is the best one? The iPhone with iOS or the Samsung S24 Ultra with Android? So, if you're excited, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let's get started. So, the iPhone 15 Pro Max came out in September of 2023. And now, 4 months later, I do believe it's an amazing phone and the best iPhone ever made. This was the first time that Apple introduced very important things like USB-C on the iPhone. They introduced titanium frame, which is an incredible thing, and they introduced log footage on the camera. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max is actually a bigger deal than you actually think. This is one of the biggest upgrades in the while, and I do believe that this is an amazing phone. But the Samsung S24 Ultra, released now in January by Samsung, this is also made of titanium. This also has USB-C. This also has a new revamped camera system. And which of these phones is the best one? Because that's a question that probably lots of people think about. And probably lots of people are thinking, which one of these should I buy? The 15 Pro Max, the Samsung S24 Ultra, they are both really expensive. So which one of these phones is the best one and the better value? But I don't think that's the question. I think that the biggest question here is which one of these phones is worth investing on, and especially which one of these ecosystems is worth investing on. So yeah, I do believe that's the biggest question. Let's start off with the design. The iPhone 15 Pro Max features a titanium frame with a glass back. And yeah, it's pretty durable. This was the first time ever that a smartphone was made out of titanium. And it was an instant success. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is so much lighter and it feels better in the hand than the 14 Pro Max. It's lighter, the weight distribution is better, and it feels more balanced in the hand. And yeah, looks really nice. This titanium color is incredible and I love it so much. The brushed titanium sides at the beginning was like, not glossy sides, not like shiny sides that look very premium, no, brush sides. But after 3-4 months, I'm so glad Apple did it this way. This looks so good and I'm still in love with the looks of this phone. While the Samsung S24 Ultra, it followed the same playbook as the iPhone. It was made out of titanium still and a glass back. So Samsung completely copied Apple on this aspect. They made their flagship phone out of titanium, just like Apple's. And great call, Samsung, great call. Apple sometimes copies Samsung. Samsung sometimes copies Apple. And I'm glad Samsung copied Apple in this aspect in terms of the titanium frame. It's so much better, it's more resistant, and it's more balanced in the hand. The weight is better distributed. But just like Apple's, this is not fully graded titanium. This is not 100% titanium sides. No, it's a mixture between plastic, titanium, and aluminum, just like the Apple's titanium. But I do believe there are some differences. I do believe that I heard online that the iPhone 15 Pro Max titanium is grade 5, while the Samsung's is grade 1. I'm not sure. Leave it on the comments down below and confirm if that's true or not. But if that's true, then Samsung, why would you ship out the titanium if you know that most people will find out? Don't do that. Again, they both feel really similar. These are the best feeling phones in the hand that I've ever held, and they are the most similar ones. I never felt two different phones from two different companies feel almost the same. The iPhone and the Samsung, they weigh the same, almost. The iPhone and the Samsung, they almost feel the same in the hand in terms of feeling. The only difference would be that the iPhone has the rounded off corners and the Samsung has the sharp corners. This is a point for the iPhone because this is much more comfortable to hold in your hand, while the Samsung is much sharper. It cuts in into your hand, cuts in into your knuckle, and after a few hours, you actually notice a difference and it leaves a mark on your hand, while the iPhone is much more comfortable in that regard. And with the new contoured edges that Apple added to the iPhone 15 Pro Max design, this is the most comfortable and best looking design on the iPhone ever. While the Samsung looks really close to the Samsung S23 Ultra, but with some changes. Now the screen is flat instead of being curved, which in my opinion looks better and it feels better. No more accidental touches on the sides, so good call Samsung, copying Apple's design. This here, again, look at it. The same colors, the same frame, the same glass back, the same front glass. Everything is almost the same. The only difference is, again, this is squared, this is more circular in terms of the corners. Other than that, these are almost the same. Also now the Samsung S24 Ultra has an anti-glaring protection on the screen that makes an incredible job. You can see here under very harsh lights how good it performs. Then there's of course the camera bump, which are different. Other than that, I don't see that much of a difference in terms of design. But because of these rounded off sides and the better comfort, I'm gonna give this category to the iPhone. Again, this is very subjective, but I do believe that this design is better just because it's better to hold, it's more comfortable, and I do prefer the proportions of the iPhone. The Samsung is slimmer but taller, while the iPhone is wider but not as tall. So reaching the top corners with the iPhone 15 Pro Max is easier than with the Samsung S24 Ultra. Yes, I know it's not as easy to reach the sides. With the Samsung it's actually easier because it's not as wide as the iPhone, but it's taller. So if I put it right side to side, you can see it's like, I would say half a centimeter taller than the iPhone, but the iPhone is, again, wider than the Samsung. This is a 6.8-inch display, this is a 6.7, but again, you almost not notice any of the differences. So yeah, in terms of design, these are really, really similar, but I would give the point to the iPhone just because I think it's more comfortable and easier to use in your hand. One complaint that I also have to point out on the Samsung phone in terms of the hardware is the button placement. The Samsung S24 Ultra opts out to have the buttons all on the same side, while the iPhone has the lock button in the right side and the volume buttons on the left. This is much better because in the last week that I've used the Samsung S24 Ultra, I've confused the lock button with the volume buttons several times, and I'm a techie guy, so I imagine how many times a grandpa or a grandma would confuse these buttons. But again, it's a personal thing. If I used to Android or other Samsung phones that I have these for years, then you have no issues. For me, that I come from an iPhone, and for people that are not as tech savvy, I do believe this is an issue. So I much prefer this approach of having two different sides. It's muscle memory, much faster than I click. This is, I know, is the lock button. These I know are the volume buttons. And then you have the action button right here, while the Samsung is all on the same side. And this causes some problems of mixing up the buttons, or at least trying to turn down the volume and then locking your phone, or even worse, turning on Bixby. That's the worst part. But again, in terms of design, like I told you, the iPhone gets the win. The S24 Ultra now has a much more improved display. This is a flat display, just like the iPhone. And these displays are much more closer than you actually think. They have about the same bezel thickness. They have about the same bezel symmetry. Yes, finally Samsung has made the bezels symmetric, an incredible achievement from an Android manufacturer. Apple has done it since the iPhone X. But it almost took like 7 years for another Android manufacturer to put even bezels on a phone. And this is incredible because now finally we have another phone other than the iPhone that has even bezels. This is an achievement out of its own from Samsung. But this display is not just like even bezels and a flat display. No, it's also super bright, even brighter than the iPhone. And that's something that I really value because outside there's nothing you can do about it. This is the best display in the world right now. The Samsung takes this really easily. Although I like the colors of the iPhone, I think they are warmer and better looking and easier on the eyes. The Samsung colors are insane. Again, Samsung makes almost all of the displays in the world for almost all phones. So it makes sense that they have the best displays for their own. And again, this has an incredible piece of technology of display. This is HDR capable, almost like 2500 nit capable in terms of peak brightness and HDR, while the iPhone is only 2000. Again, both of these displays are super bright. But one thing that the Samsung S24 Ultra has on top of the iPhone is not just the extra brightness outside, but also the way it can dim itself. The Samsung S24 Ultra can dim so low that if I put it on the lowest setting, like you cannot even see it on the camera. I can see it on real life, it's extremely dim, but on the camera you cannot. And it's just ridiculous. The iPhone, you can easily see it. Again, in the night, like in bed with all the lights turned off, you can see it and it's actually pretty strong. So if you want to have almost like no light on your display, the Samsung, this is such an advantage that it has over the iPhone. And this year, the Samsung also enabled the always-on display, just like iOS. So you can now have your wallpapers on the always-on display, your notifications, your widgets. So at the end of the day, these displays are closer than you actually think. But the Samsung S24 Ultra just has the best display in the world right now, and there's nothing that the iPhone can do about it. So this point goes to the Samsung S24 Ultra, but again, watch this comparison. Let me know in the comments below which one do you prefer. Do you prefer the iPhone's colors? Do you prefer the Samsung colors? I did this comparison so it was easier for you to see, not just trusting in my word, but in today to use, I do believe that the Samsung has a better display. It's brighter, it's also dimmer, so it has a bigger amplitude of brightness, and it just had better color reproductions. Although the iPhone is really true to itself, really neutral, really like almost lifelike, the Samsung it's just better. Although I know it's fake, I know it's vivid display colors, I know all of that, I just prefer to look at it. It's just insane. And I don't know what it is. It's also extremely sharp. The iPhone, it's a Retina display, so I think it's about 1080p, 2K maximum, while the Samsung S24 Ultra can go up to 4K display resolution. This is insane resolution on a phone. Although it's turned off by factory settings, and you need to turn it on settings. But it's really easy, just going to the display category on the Samsung S24 Ultra settings, turn it on. But I don't know if you can notice the difference or not on camera. Day-to-day use, I don't notice that much of a difference. Only watching probably video, 4K video HDR, I notice a tiny bit of a difference. Other than that, it's just a gimmick. But again, having the option is just great because if you want to, you can turn it on. If you want to, you can turn it off. The only thing you need to remember is that it will take a huge chunk of your battery life. It will take a hit, but the Samsung S24 Ultra can handle it because these batteries are the two best batteries on a phone ever. Like, this is just insane. The iPhone 15 Pro Max had insane battery life. Trust me, this lasted me 2 days easily. I reached the end of the day with like 60%, 50%. I was like, I can last one more day with it. But then the Samsung S24 Ultra came. And I don't know if it's because I don't use the Samsung that much when I'm using it, because I don't know how to use it, or have less apps installed, or something else. But I only, like, maximum, wasted 30%. Maximum, I think I spent like 40% of battery. This Samsung phone in the settings, if you go into settings, tells you how much time of battery do you have left. And this phone was reporting like 2.5 days, 3 days with 80%. It was just crazy. And I was like, oh my God, this has great battery life. I never managed to kill this phone in 1 day. Never. The iPhone, I've done it sometimes. Like if I record a vlog or if I do very intensive stuff with the camera, I can kill it. With the S24 Ultra, if I try to vlog with it, maybe I could kill it, but the battery life here is insane. I think it has a crazy huge battery, like 4,500, 4,800 milliamperes of battery. Again, insane battery life. These two phones, no issues. It's a 2-day phone, each of these. So again, do I give a winner to each category? Like, these are both winners here. I would give it a tie because I've used my iPhone much longer and this has degraded. And also, this iPhone, I think I use it harder because I know how to use it. While with the Samsung, because I'm a newbie, because I don't know how to use the power features on the Samsung phone, maybe I would take it easy. But again, these are 2-day phones easily. So that's a tie for the battery. Both of these phones have exclusive features to themselves. So again, as you know, and I've told you several times, the iPhone 15 Pro Max biggest exclusive feature is the action button. Yes, this is the only phone in the world that has this action button. The action button can be mapped for whatever you want to. You can create shortcuts, you can launch your camera app, launch any app, you can do anything. You can open your car garage, you can open your car, you can preheat your car, your Tesla, you can control everything using the action button. It's really useful. I don't use it that much, but I do believe there's a lot of people that actually do, and it's a pretty cool feature. Again, exclusive to the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. While the Samsung S24 Ultra has also a very exclusive feature, one that we don't see in the wild that much, and that's the S Pen. The S Pen, it's the biggest gimmick, but the coolest thing ever on the phone. I've used this like twice now in that week, but when I used it, I'm like, I'm glad that I have it. Again, it's a Bluetooth remote controller to take photos if you want to. It's a note-taking pen, and that's it. It does some cool features like hovering over the display, like taking notes on your display. You can write it, it's pretty cool. You can delete it, you can use it just like the iPad, and you can take notes. I've taken the notes for this video with the S Pen, and yeah, once you are done with it, you just start it down there. Really easy. If you don't lose it, you can actually track it if you do, but if you don't lose it, it's a pretty neat place to put it. So, does not take space, and it's a pretty neat feature. Again, these phones are filled with all of these features, and I think these flagship phones, they need this. These gimmicks, that at the end of the day, they add up and they actually create value for these phones. So if you consider these features a gimmick, which one would you choose? Well, as for me, although I'd like the action button, since I've got the Samsung S24 Ultra, I've used the S Pen more times than the action button on my iPhone. So even though I love the iPhone, I would pick the S Pen from the S24 Ultra. If you want to unlock these phones, then you have two choices. The iPhone offers Face ID, that's it. But the Samsung S24 Ultra offers Face Unlock and the so-called Touch ID or the fingerprint sensor. This is two different ways to approach a phone. Which one do you want to use it? It's totally your call. But one thing you should have in mind is the iPhone's Face ID is so much better than the Samsung one. It's so much more secure. It has a 3D depth camera system that can detect your face, create a 3D map of your face, and unlock it. That's why banks trust it. While they don't trust the Face Unlock on the Samsung that just takes pictures of your face. And there's another thing. The Touch ID sensor, if you do really like Touch ID, it sucks on the Samsung S24 Ultra. Okay, it doesn't suck. It's not that bad. But I've put and installed a screen protector, something that it's really common on the Samsung phones and every phone because again, it breaks, it scratches. It's a $1,500 phone and you don't want it to get ruined. So you buy a screen protector. What happens? It destroys your fingerprint sensor. Yes, at the beginning, it was all just fine. It worked like 98% of the time. Now, with a compatible screen protector, not a non-compatible, a compatible screen protector for the S24 Ultra, it does not work like 50% of the time. If I try to unlock it now, let me see if I can replicate the error. I have this thumb registered. I will click the screen and let me see if I can do it. One, and okay, at the second try. Then with my other thumb, 1, 2, again, 3, and it unlocked. So at the third time, it's not consistent. I would say it's because of the screen protector. Because when I did not have one, it was perfect, worked flawlessly. But again, that's the whole point that I'm trying to make. The Face ID system here is way more reliable. It works every time and it doesn't actually require you to not have a screen protector or not to cover up your face. No, it works with the mask, everything. There's no disadvantages to use Face ID. You just look at it, it's unlocked, you just swipe and it's unlocked. You don't even think about it. It's not a conscious action. While the Touch ID sensor here, it is. So at the end of the day, I do believe it's factual and I do believe the Face ID system on the iPhone is better, more secure, and it's just easier to use. So, point for the iPhone here. I've been telling you throughout this comparison that these phones are really similar. And again, they both have titanium frames, Samsung copied that. They both have the flat screens, Samsung copied that. But this time, it was Apple to converge into the Samsung phone, not the other way around. And not because Apple wanted to, but because the European Union wanted to. They forced Apple to adopt USB-C, and Apple did. So both of these phones, they both feature USB-C. This is USB-C 3.2 speeds, so much faster speeds than the base model iPhone 15s, about the same speeds as the USB-C port on the Samsung S24 Ultra. So charging speeds, transferring speeds, almost all the same. The only thing that I think is faster on the Samsung S24 Ultra is the wireless charging. I'm not sure on his, but the difference is pretty small. The iPhone can wirelessly charge at 15 watts maximum, and I think that the Samsung can do it at 20-something watts. It's negligible. And while fast charging, I think that the iPhone can do it at 30 watts or 35 watts, the Samsung almost the same. And I do believe they do it for a reason. I do believe that they don't adopt the fast charging technology from Oppo or OnePlus because it ruins your battery on the long term. And again, Samsung and Apple, they're both boasting long times of upgrades and support for these phones. Like iPhone normally gets 6 to 7 years, and Samsung just promised 7 years of support for this phone. If they want to do that, they need to have long-lasting batteries. So no fast charging here makes a lot of sense. And again, it does not make your phone useless, does not make your phone obsolete. It would be cool to fast charge your phone in like 10 to 15 minutes. Yes, it would be useful once in a while. Yes, but after a few months, you will notice your battery health degrading very, very fast. And you would like, why it happened? Why? I don't want that. This is a problem. And then you would complain. So not having super fast charging like 65 watt, like Oppo and OnePlus and other Chinese brands, I think you get a pass. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I want to talk about the cameras, and I will in this video, but I want to make a separate video on the camera comparison because I think both of these phones now, most of their technology improvements are on the camera side. And so I think it's necessary and it's worth it to make a separate video comparing all of these two best cameras on a smartphone ever made. Yes, these both phones are better than the Google Pixel 8 Pro in my opinion. So if you want to see that full comparison, subscribe to the channel because in the next week, 2 weeks, it will be around. But to summarize a very short comparison, the iPhone 15 Pro Max takes better video and in my opinion better stills, while the Samsung S24 Ultra has better zoom and more features. So that's the short answer to that question. Which one has the better camera? Overall, I do believe that the iPhone is more balanced, while the Samsung S24 Ultra has that scumbag zoom that is insane. I love it. This is the best part of the Samsung S24 Ultra, the capabilities of the zoom. So stable, so easy to use, and super, super powerful. This is a pun, like Flossie Carter, the scumbag zoom, you know what I mean? This is insane and something that Samsung fans and Samsung itself should be proud. These cameras, they are both incredible. I'm not saying that this is trash and this one is better. No, I'm saying these are the top-notch cameras in the world. I do believe that the iPhone edges it out because of the video is sharper, in low light is playing better. Low light photography, I do believe the iPhone photos are brighter, the Samsung are a bit darker, but I do believe that the Samsung photos at night are a bit more realistic, and the colors, I prefer it. The iPhone, I think, blows out a bit the mid-tones, while the Samsung keeps it controlled and looking a bit better in my opinion. As for color reproduction, I do believe the iPhone is more neutral, and so better, because I prefer photos to look like reality, not like an enhanced version of reality. But if you go for AI and AI on the camera side, the Samsung has better AI and better zoom. So these two cameras, they battle it out, and at the end of the day, they are both the best camera systems in the world. If you value video, if you value social media, because the iPhone still takes better quality video for social media, then the iPhone is your option. If zoom is all you care about, and if AI features like editing with the Google AI stuff and removing objects and selecting objects and moving objects, all of the AI features that Samsung and Google talk about, then the Samsung is your only option between these two phones. At the end of the day, it's a subjective matter. If you prefer a more controlled and neutral camera, that it's more professional, easier to use, with less clutter, then the iPhone camera is better, in my opinion. But if you do prefer a more customizable camera experience, a camera experience with a scumbag zoom like nothing else, and if you prefer that color, if you prefer that different look, the Samsung look to the photos, then the Samsung S24 Ultra is for you. Again, these are so close that if you don't really care about video, it's very, very subjective. As for the speakers, well, I want to do a different thing here. I don't want to say which one is better. I just want you to listen and tell me in the comments below which one do you prefer. So, take a listen.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways. And on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat.
One thing that I think is really important to talk about between these two phones, and it doesn't actually apply for the hardware, neither the software of these phones, is the ecosystem. These days, phones and computers, laptops, wearables are all connected. And you need to understand that the iPhone has the Apple ecosystem, the Samsung has the Android and Samsung ecosystem. And depending which one do you have, which type of devices do you want, it makes your choice much easier. Because, again, at the end of the day, if you have an iPhone, you won't be better off buying a Samsung. No, just buy another iPhone. It will be much easier to upgrade. Everything will be the same. And your devices like AirPods, your Apple Watch, your Mac, your iPad, and even if you have the Apple Vision Pro, all will work really well, really seamlessly, and really easy with the iPhone. And even if the Samsung would be better for you, if you have all of these devices, the iPhone is the perfect match for you. But if you don't have any of these Apple devices and you were thinking, should I switch to iOS? And you have the Samsung Galaxy Watch device, and you have the Samsung Buds, or any type of Android ecosystem, a Windows computer, and you feel comfortable with Android, then stick with Android. Only if you feel very frustrated with any of these OSs should you switch. But at the end of the day, I do believe that Apple's ecosystem is better. So if you're trying to build an ecosystem around and you have some money around to invest in a really good ecosystem, I would advise you to go for the Apple ecosystem. You have everything. A good, and in my opinion, the best smartwatch available, the Apple Watch Ultra right here, the best pair of earbuds, the AirPods Pro, and of course, the best computers in the game. I don't want to have the discussion about Windows versus macOS because there's none. macOS is simply better, easier to use. The only reason for you to have Windows is because it has more support from developers and big companies. But once that dies off and gaming actually starts up and boots up on the Mac, it's done. macOS is better, more intuitive, and more futuristic. It's just ahead of Windows. And so, if you have a Mac, do you prefer a Mac? And if you have more Apple devices, the iPhone is my recommendation. It's easier to build an ecosystem for it, and with Apple Vision Pro in its future, I do believe is the future of technology. But if you don't have one, if you are used to having Android phones, there's no shame in buying the Samsung S24 Ultra. This also has great accessories that work really well between each other, but it's not on the same level as Apple's ecosystem. And so it's the iPhone's strongest point, and this one, there's not even a discussion. So, like I told you, in the end, it resumes to Android versus iOS, Apple ecosystem versus the other ecosystems. So, which one do you prefer? Do you have an iPhone? Do you have an Android? All of these will guide you between your choice. The thing that I've talked about, the design, the cameras, the display, the battery life, USB-C, S Pen, action button, titanium frames, build quality, all of these is irrelevant if you don't consider iOS versus Android. If you do like iOS, no discussion, go for the iPhone. If you don't like iOS and you do actually love Android, all of its customizations and all of its strengths, then go for the Samsung S24 Ultra. That's the biggest question here, is iOS versus Android. Which one do you like? Which one do you prefer? iOS has strengths and weaknesses, just like Android has strengths and weaknesses. I do believe iOS is easier and more intuitive to use with a better ecosystem, while Android is more customizable and more powerful in terms of features. So, depending which one do you want, that's the choice you gotta make. iPhone for iOS, Samsung for Android. And these two phones, respectively, are the best two phones on their regards. This is the best iOS phone. Again, it's the only flagship on the iOS side, and this, for sure, is the best flagship Android phone. I've used the Google Pixel 8 Pro, there's no discussion. The Samsung S24 Ultra is the king of the Android side. As for the prices, the iPhone is not the most expensive anymore. The iPhone starts at $1,200 with 256 GB of storage for the Pro Max model. If you want to save up some money, you can buy the Pro model, and it's a bit smaller, the battery life is not as good, and you don't have the telephoto camera with the 5x zoom. And that would cost you $999 with 128 GB of storage. While the Samsung S24 Ultra starts at $1,300, $1,299 with 256 GB of storage, goes up to $1,400 with 512 and $1,500 with 1 TB. So both of these phones are super expensive, and again, they are priced almost the same way. So I don't think that the price enters the equation. These are super expensive phones. These are flagship phones, the best you can buy. Titanium, glass, amazing cameras, USB-C, best speakers in the game, and again, the best displays. So you pay for what you want to get. At the end of the day, these two phones, expensive yes, but not overpriced. We reached the end of this comparison, and now I need to give you the answer. Which phone should you buy? I don't know. I simply don't know. I cannot answer this because I don't know your answer to this question, iOS versus Android. If you prefer iOS, iPhone. If you prefer Android, Samsung S24 Ultra. This video could be resumed just to these three words, iOS versus Android. And I think that's the title of this video, iOS versus Android. Which one do you like? Which one do you prefer? Make the choice according to that. All of the other things, they are fun and entertaining to watch, but it's irrelevant when compared to the iOS versus Android discussion. And I know in the comments down below, I will be critiqued from both sides. People that love the iPhone and say the Samsung is trash. People that love the Samsung and say that the iPhone is trash. I don't care. Both of these phones are amazing. They are incredible. And this discussion will be alive until the end of times. Do you prefer the iPhone? Do you prefer the Android? Doesn't matter. These are the two best flagships available, and your answer to this question will give you the answer to your question. Which one should I buy? Well, I just need to answer the question. Do I want an iOS phone? Do I want an Android phone? And there's your answer, the phone that fits your ecosystem better. It's that simple. That simple, guys. Which one of these fits your ecosystem better? Go ahead and buy it. These are two incredible phones. You will not be disappointed with your choice. Thank you guys for watching. And of course, leave a like down below. And do not forget to subscribe because in about 1 week and a half, my two videos on the Samsung S24 Ultra review and camera comparison against the iPhone 15 Pro Max will be released. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.